back to 1 Minute Recess, where we dive into the news, politics, and off-the-record moments shaping Nevada and beyond. My name's Annette Magnus.
And I'm Mayte, short for Maria Teresa, and together, like we do every week, we will explore what really happens during those not so 1 minute recesses, both on and off the floor. But from political drama and cultural chaos, we are here to ask, what the fuck is going on out there? So let's get into it, Annette. Are you ready?
Let's do the recess rundown from here at the Nevada legislature. I'm actually in the building today as we're recording. It's silly season here at the building. I'm already annoyed. And it's, when we're taping this, it's Monday. I'm clearly annoyed because I can't even talk because, that's where we are. So, Maria, that's what's going on with the recess rundown. So let's go through a couple things.
Yeah,
Nevada's
you're
broke.
annoyed.
Let's
Nevada's
start there.
broke.
Everything's terrible. Economic Forum happened last week on Thursday. We had warned everybody. We had warned everybody it was going to be a bloodbath. And as we were going through the day and kind of watching the Economic Forum unfold, I was watching the actual presentation and, it seemed fine. It seemed lower than what everybody expected. And then they added $160 million to it because of the education funding. So, yeah, it's like 190 plus 160 equals Nevada is broke. Like real broke. So, there are some bills out there that could potentially raise some revenue, which I'm excited for. We'll see if they have the political fortitude to actually do those bills because Lord knows we desperately need to raise revenue in this state. Maybe, just maybe, we can talk about some of those in the coming weeks. We'll see how that all transpires. We'll see how that all works out. But otherwise, we're going to have to make some pretty significant cuts. They've already started to do that. My suspicion is anything with a fiscal note that's significant is going to die a fiery death because unless they dip into the rainy day fund, there is no additional funding out there for literally anything. So we're in deep trouble, Nevada, and this is why we need to diversify our revenue and diversify our revenue streams and diversify our tax structure in the state. So here we are yet again. Maria, how long have we been talking about this? A good 10 to 12 years talking about the need for revenue in the state, talking about the need for diversification of our economy. Fun times. What a time to be alive.
And if we're doing simple math, like you just did, also
CCSD math or real math?
See, envy ledge math, which is harder.
Okay.
But it's basic of, one of the things that we've always talked about, especially when things like, I don't know, stadium special sessions would come around, or during a regular sessions, stadiums like the A's would come around.
Or just any other dumb thing they want to fund.
Yeah. Raising revenue. Wait, this is CCSD math, raising revenue. I don't know. More money equals raising revenue minus, I did it backwards, minus, hello, Assemblyman.
Sorry, now you see whose office I'm squatting in. All right, Maria, we gotta stop. I gotta go find another spot to do this in.
All good.
Sorry. Are you sure? You don't have any other meeting? Okay. All right, well, we'll do it here then.
Okay, I'll just cut that out.
Sorry, Maria. Yeah, you can just cut him out coming into his office where I'm squatting.
So where were we? All right.
Stadium equals money.
Yeah. You know how we could get more money and not be broke would be no stadiums plus adding more revenue. That seems like basic math to me. I know I just had to do mental gymnastics because CCSD to get there, but it's pretty basic. And I don't know why the legislature hasn't, year after year after year, session after session after session, hasn't come to that realization. Poor Annette, you're in the building. Is it that they have that realization, but they don't want to do that because of interests?
I think it's a fun mix of both, to be quite honest. And here's the thing. If I had any ability to create the budget or make the budget at this point, if I am desperate for, $300 million or whatever it is at this point, I might be looking at the A's stadium and going back to the drawing board and wondering, should we take back some of those tax and incentives or tax credits we were going to give them to try and balance some of that budget? Problem is you also have that whole vacant plot of land that's not bringing any tax revenue now. And you have, as we were going to get to in the next segment, but this all ties together, You have if you look at the actual bill, the way it was written, they are supposed to be using that. They're supposed to be creating a special tax district that's supposed to be paying for the stadium itself. There was just an article out yesterday that says that they still may not be building the stadium. They still may not come. They might end up back in Oakland. It's laughable. I know we were like cackling like witches when we read it, but it's laughable that this is what we continue to do with our tax dollars. Now, again, we've talked about this on the show. I think the film tax credit is a little different in the way that it's set up, in the way that the revenue structure works, the fact that it doesn't go into effect until 2028. Things could be drastically different by then, and that sets up a whole new industry where we can actually have good paying jobs, invest in education, things like that. But when you look at the stadium, it just doesn't balance out. And when you're talking about being in a revenue shortfall now because of what's happening at the federal government, maybe, just maybe, we should look at what we did last session and reconsider and maybe bring some of that revenue back in house, because I don't know that the A's are even going to come.
When I read that, I said, no way.
Except
and guess way. And
the Nevada way.
The Nevada way. And also, this is what we wondered and asked people and told people.
100%. We testified on this.
Yes. It's like they are, if you want to take a team that is more waffly and more terrible than the Raiders, it's the A's.
And at least with the Allegiant Stadium, again, the way that it was structured was totally different, right? The way that the whole bill was set up was totally different. The way that the tax infrastructure was set up, totally different. And it is a large venue where large acts, large, concerts, WrestleMania, all of those things can be held. And we did need a larger venue, right? Like, I'll give it to them on that. It is now more than making up for what it cost. But that is not going to happen with the A's Stadium. And so we really need to take a look at all the places where we have given tax breaks, where we have, set ourselves up for, in this case, failure, and maybe reconsider some of that stuff. Because I think funding things like Medicaid, and I think funding things like our education system and our mental health system is far more important at this point. But it comes down to priorities. Where are our priorities on this?
Yeah. And do you get the sense that legislators on both sides of the aisle are clear on their priorities?
I think until last week, I think some of them, not all of them, some of them were kind of operating on a hope and a wish. How are we going to, how are we going to make this work? How are we going to, hang on, pause. There we go. I think some of the legislators were operating on like a hope and a wish. Well, maybe if we just don't pay attention to it, it's not going to really happen. I think there are other legislators who really feel like this is dire and this is serious. I think, you look at the people who run the budget committees, DMM, Maryland Ontario Loop, they know it's serious, right? I think also it's hard sometimes, I think probably for the Republicans to admit why we're in this mess. We're in this mess because it's a man-made mess, right? This is not something where the economy is falling apart or we're having we do have a housing crisis, but it's different than the 2008 housing crisis. This is something that's entirely man-made by the Trump administration. And so for me, I think it's really hard for some of them to admit that their boy is causing these problems and causing the state so much duress. And look, if I'm running people's campaigns next session or next election season, I'm going to say, lean into this. Lean into the fact that, Donald Trump caused this mess and these people supported him. But what do I know? What do I know? I hope they take it seriously. And I really do hope that they do not dip into the rainy day fund unless they're trying to fund education or unless they're trying to fund, basic human services for our people. That's what we really need to save that rainy day fund for, not these random special projects in one-shot funding. That is not the way we should be doing business. We saved all this money in the rainy day fund. Now we need to be spending it on the right things.
Yeah. it seems like, rainy day fund is like an emergency savings account that people would have.
Yes.
Sounds
it
like
is
we're in
not
a
a
rainy day.
slush fund. That's in the name. It's kind of in the name.
It is a storm. The storm has brewed. It is raining.
Weird.
It is
In the
raining
thick of
inside.
it.
Yeah.
In
It's
the
like
thick
that
of
time
it.
it rained in your office. It's literally pouring inside. The roof is collapsing.
Speaking of that memory just came up last week. It was literally doing that in our office last week, a few years ago. So
Yeah.
fitting time-wise. It was very fitting
Yeah.
with, like, the economic forum and, memories and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is when you dip into that and you call the repairman or look at your budget and you fix what needs to be fixed and use that rainy day fund. It's wild. It's wild.
It is funny though, because like I told you, silly season is upon us. You know exactly what I mean. Everybody's like, "Oh, well, session's almost over." I'm like, "This is when the shit begins. This is the hard part, friends. It's not like in other places. You know this. It's not like in other places where, oh, you're getting down towards the end and it's like, oh, you got a final exam or something. No, session gets rough. It is tough during the month of May. This is when people are angry. People don't want to be here anymore. People are upset they have to be in this building. People like me don't want to have to get on the plane to come back to Carson City every weekend. Now, most weekends, people are not going home because they're going to start doing finance stuff on the weekends. Ways and Means and Finance are going to start working Saturdays and eventually Sundays. This is when the crunch starts to happen. And so people are grouchy up here. People are angry. Their bills are dying. Shenanigans are happening. So it's one of those things where you add that on top of the fact that we are in a true financial crisis in this state. This session's going to be dicey the last month in May. June 2nd can't come fast enough for me. And I've actually had a really great session, a really positive session. But you can feel the energy in the building starting to shift now.
Yeah. And apologies if to you and to folks that will be watching.
We just shifted views.
We just shifted because the power almost went out because it's actually raining in Vegas today.
Oh, that's nice. You're having a little
and so all my lights
storm
just
in
did
Vegas.
this,
I
and my
wondered where
camera
you
just
went.
shut off. And now I'm in a different angle.
Listen, we're going to have different pauses in this episode. We're doing the best we can this week, y'all. We're doing the best we can.
It's a
It's one
testament
of them
to
weeks.
it's a testament to what you were saying of it being silly season, because it really seems, for those that have never worked a legislative session or even just been up there, like, it is, I'll say what probably Annette can't, or as a lay person that doesn't
Apparently
have to be
people
there this
are
session.
monitoring my fucking social media now, everyone. So I gotta be careful what I say. The Republicans are monitoring my shit.
And that's what happens during
Irritating.
any session, but it gets hyper sensitive. Like, people get really sensitive. And when I mean people, I really do mean just general people, probably people you've never heard of, people you will never know about, that talk to someone or else. It is like high school antics on steroids, because these people sometimes have power over a bill that you're working on, or they're a lobbyist on the other side of the bill. And so people get angry about a tweet that isn't related to them, or it is related to them, but they're mad about it. And that will hold up a whole legislation if they're that sensitive.
It's so funny because I learned this when we were at our former employer. I would put something up on my social media, my personal social media. We still have the First Amendment in this country for now. And I would put something up on my social media. Everybody would be like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" I'm like, "Bro, I'm just venting. Like, calm down. It's not that serious." So this session, I was like, I'm not even posting about this session. I'm not posting a damn thing other than when it snows, I'm going to whine about it, right? Because everybody knows how much I hate the snow, and that is a common known fact for me. I call it sky trash. That's for Steve Sebelius. So for me, I'm like, why are you watching me so closely? First of all, I am not that interesting. I'm funny, but I'm not that interesting. So I've been posting a lot about the national embarrassment that is the Trump administration, because it is a national embarrassment. We should be embarrassed by it. And I'm not going to shut up about it. Like, that is the least I can do, is spread awareness and call them out for their antics and their bullshit. But here we are. I was at the building day. Somebody came up to me and they were like, "So your social media?" I'm like, "Friend, you think this is bad? You should have seen me 5 years ago. This is tame, Annette." But yeah, everything in session gets nitpicked. If you come in looking rough, people think you're hungover. It's why I don't go out drinking at night. Especially as a woman, you got to be super careful because people make up stories all the time. So if you're ever wondering, for those of you at home, what it's like in this building, it's like a pressure cooker. And everybody's watching everybody. And I know I sound crazy and I sound like paranoid, but that's how it makes you feel. It's like a pressure cooker in this building, and everybody's just watching how you're acting. Half the time, somebody asks me how I am, I'm like, "Oh my God, I'm great. Everything's wonderful." Because I don't want them reading into the fact that I slept poorly and I'm 40 years old and have to take ibuprofen to function during the day. And now that's not because of session, that's because I'm old.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so for those of you at home wondering, well, what's it like towards the end of session? And glamorizing the fact that I'm, at the legislature every day. It ain't that glamorous. I'm just going to put that out there now. It's like a pressure cooker. People act stupid. People are constantly looking for something, and you got to be on your toes about that.
Yeah, it is rough, to put it as you put it, but I feel like rough is an understatement.
You've been up here with me, but half the time you were just up here for my moral support, so I didn't, cry myself to sleep half the time. It ain't that bad this session for me, but it's intense. People get weird during the end of session. It's hard.
Yeah, they really do. And it's, by this time, a lot of folks probably aren't getting the chance, you included, legislators included. Carson City is literally just the legislature.
It's one street, Carson Street, William Street.
Yeah, it's a bubble. It's like a little island, and it's like you're just stuck there, and you don't get to go back home. Sometimes some people that live in Reno sometimes would just stay over because the nights get longer, and you don't get to actually be a person. You are just either a lobbyist or a legislator or an LCB staffer, and that's just the legislature, and that makes people kooky.
Well, and people take stuff incredibly serious, which is should up here. But also people sometimes take things personally, right? None of this is supposed to be personal. But if you've ever worked on a bill before, if you've ever worked on an issue, especially the stuff that you and I tend to work on, it's hard not to take this stuff seriously because you care really deeply about some of these issues. One of the issues I'm working on now is the animal issues. It is really hard not to take that stuff personally because those bills really matter. There was a bill up this morning with Assemblymember Wynn, AB 112. We talked about it last week. It's a kin care bill. It's a building on the paid sick leave stuff from 2019 that you and I worked on. It's really hard not to take those bills personally because they really do impact people's lives, everyday people's lives. So I get it, right? And I've even had to learn to kind of put up some barriers and some boundaries of okay, but we can't take it this seriously, right? And I get it's hard. But some people, man, up here, they get way too in their feelings about it. They get way too competitive about it. I get the desire to win. I get the desire to win for your clients. But sometimes, and again, we've reached that point in session where people are getting mad at each other or people are taking it, way too seriously. And it's just, I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
It all
and money
fun and
problems
games.
don't help.
It's like summer camp until, you compound all the problems and you have money problems and nobody's bills with fiscal notes are going to live. And it's all fun and games until you get to May.
It's a recipe for disaster.
So I have my own house. Just go home to it, watch, Summer House and go to sleep. Get
Don't
up
have
and
to
do it
see
again.
anyone in an elevator or in the lobby.
I don't go out drinking. I don't go out and hang out unless I know the people. It's just it's not worth it. Just not worth it.
It isn't. Having experienced both, staying at places that lots of the folks who work at the legislature stay versus, rooming with you at one of the spots that aren't a hotel, big difference.
Night and day difference, right? And really taking care of your own mental health, because you can really get sucked up into some nonsense up here and just not getting into that mess, because it is a mess.
All it takes is for someone to see you somewhere. Doesn't have to be the building, out in the wild, and they just say, "Hey, your name," and they pull you aside to tell you something, and the world just falls apart.
I mean, when that person said it to me today, my whole fucking mood changed, Maria. I was like, say what, sir? That is relatively tame compared to, also, again, a man policing what I say. But I was like, that is relatively tame compared to what I've said in previous sessions. Be thankful, friend, that I didn't go off on you or anyone else.
Can we have outrage for Trump posting on Truth Social? Like he's the actual president.
That's what I said. I was like, have you seen his posts lately? I'm sorry, if you're a Catholic and you are not outraged by the fact that he literally posed in an AI image as the Pope, which is sacrilegious.
Literal sacrilege.
It literally is in the 10 Commandments. It's the first 2 commandments that you don't do that. And I'm not a big religious person, but I did grow up Catholic and I do know a thing or two about Catholicism. And as a former recovering Catholic, even I was offended. I was like, now that is a step too far, friend. But calling people out for putting autistic people on lists, and the last time that happened was during the Nazi regime. And that is what I said on social media. I'm not going to stop calling out bad behavior, whether it's in this building, whether it's in Washington, D.C. If you don't like it, don't read my social media.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say.
Seeing as you're being policed, I will go a step further and say, fuck all those people for thinking that is a problem. Because, look it up. They actually, anybody, because they started going down the line of anybody that wasn't the perfect person went to camps. And those people, like people with any kind of mental illness, were essentially treated just like everyone else, no matter who you were, no matter your faith. But if you had especially autism or any signs of any kind of mental illness, off you went because you weren't, helping the master race. That is actual Nazi.
That's
work.
History.
It is actual
literally
history.
The history of it.
So, we need to stop saying, that's a step too far to call him that. No, if you are even thinking of the idea.
Shit.
No.
Yeah. No.
It's dangerous.
I'm not going to whitewash this for you. I'm not going to make it more pleasant for you. Listen, I'm not going to even tame it down for the next month. I just locked my social media down so that only my friends can see it. And then in June, I'll open it back up. I still have this. I'm still going to name this stuff. And listen, if you are a local politician and you are watching this and you don't like my social media, maybe you should look inward. That's all I got to say. Maybe that's more about you than it is about me.
Yeah. And if that doesn't work for you, how about you just grow a spine and walk over to Annette and say it yourself? Or go look at your beloved
president and see the nonsense he's spewing from the White House social. If Joe Biden did that, people would be incensed right now. Absolutely incensed. They would lose their freaking minds. So spare me the faux outrage. Anyways, I'm pissed off about it. I needed to vent. So thanks everyone for getting my blood pressure up today, and you get to benefit from it, because that's just the nonsense that just breeds in this building sometimes. Glad you get to see me in my true element today.
Absolute frustration.
I know, and also, I know we said we were going to have guests this week. It didn't work out. Maria's traveling this week. I'm super busy this week. Next week we will have guests. It just didn't work out this week. Apologies, everyone. We're failures. Here we are. You just get the 2 of us today.
It's, it's
also going to be a shorter episode. I'm squatting in somebody's office.
Yeah. So much fun having the world get in the way of running a podcast.
Listen, Envy Ledge time.
Yeah.
What else? HOA bills up tomorrow. Natha Anderson's HOA bills up on Tuesday. It will be Tuesday this week when it runs. We have a bunch of bills moving through because the next deadline is May 16th. So things are moving fast and furiously now. So if you're watching something and it's not exempt, now is the time it needs to get a hearing, because if it doesn't get a hearing by May 16th, if it's not exempt, the bill is going to die. So super important bills need to move. We also have a ton of bills waiting that are exempt that are probably going to be a part of the end game, which is when really all the shenanigans happen, like the last 2 weeks. So this month, the month of May, in my humble opinion, is one of the most critical months at the legislature. A lot of it happens behind the scenes, but that's what you have us for here, because I'm going to be right there in the thick of it with all the cheese May coming at you the next couple of weeks. So can't wait. Can't wait to tell you all the hot tea coming out of here.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah, it's gonna be so
Anything
much
else
fun.
you're wondering about? Anything else I could give you? My thoughts, my opinions?
The biggest thing was the dollar signs that are gonna be depleted
Or lack
out of our
thereof.
budget. Yeah.
Oh, God.
Boy. Yeah. Because without that, because that's really all they have to do, right?
I mean, that's the only thing they're constitutionally mandated to do is balance a budget and pass an education budget first. The rest of this is all fluff.
Godspeed, education budget. Our prayers are with you. Thoughts and prayers to the education budget.
Listen, all I know is I'm looking towards June at this point, because I'm like, when can I go to wine country and drink some wine? And with Nick, and when can I get Nick's knee fixed? Those are the things on my horizon. That's the only shit I'm looking forward to now.
Knock on wood, there's no S word.
Stop it. We don't speak of those things here. Not while I'm in the building. When I'm home, it's different. But we cannot tempt fate in this building.
No. Well,
all right, what else is going on in the world?
Yeah, so in the local lowdown, some good news and some possibly good news. One is I miss Governor Sandoval, who is now president of UNR, but still, he did a good
Republican.
thing today.
He did do a good thing today. I really love him.
He's great. He's great. That was going to be my hot take. I really miss Governor Sandoval. I miss lots
Kenny
of...
Gwynn, man. Kenny Gwynn was a badass.
Like, he was great. Helped expand Medicaid.
Yep.
Which could go away.
Helped us get through the 2015 session relatively unscathed. There were a few bad things that slipped through, but he couldn't stop everything.
All of a sudden, in summary, a great governor, but the news of what he did is that now, in his current role as president at UNR, he signed on to a letter of university presidents, essentially objecting to what the Trump administration has been doing to universities across the country, threatening to cut their funding, all the things that they're doing towards, trying to limit all of the programs that the university, essentially policing what universities are doing more Nazi stuff. So essentially, Sandoval anti-Nazi and signed on to it.
He's always been a good person, though, right? Yes. Again, he wasn't perfect. No governor is. I have plenty of criticism for Steve Sisolak, too, right? But, Sandoval was always such a reasonable guy. He was easy to get along with. You always kind of knew where he was going to fall on certain issues. You could get a straight answer out of him. It was refreshing. Those were refreshing times when we knew what we could expect.
And I always loved hearing that from people whenever they were wondering what was happening with the bill. People would always say, he is very personally judicious and always wanted to look into things and understand them. Comes from a lawyer, being a lawyer, judge, all that.
The aisle, really thoughtful about things. Again, wasn't perfect, had his own sets of issues. There were times where we were like, come on, Gov. But, you always knew pretty much where he was going to fall. There was never any stabbing in the back. You always kind of knew.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, thank you, former Governor Sandoval, current president of UNR. Glad that you're standing up for what's right in the face of this nonsense. So, good job. We're proud of you.
Yeah. And someone that we're not proud of, Michele Fiore. But this is good news. Good on the commission in Nevada, the Nevada Commission on Judicial Discipline, is going to have a hearing. So she got pardoned, but now the her little bosses because she's a justice of the peace. We said last week she couldn't sit her ass down to do her job because she's suspended, and they're actually going to have a public hearing, on her suspension order, and I can't wait. So her hearing, if people want to circle that on her calendar, or on your calendar, it's going to be May 9th at 12 p.m. And guess what, everyone? You can watch it on YouTube.
You sure can. I actually worked on this judicial review board nonsense for a little bit during this session. And all this stuff is public. So tune in. I can't wait. I'm going to be there with my popcorn. What is that, Friday?
It is
Friday? Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm excited because I will be on a plane with my Wi-Fi on, hopefully being able to watch that. Because that I won't miss.
Listen, we have followed the Michele Fiore saga since inception. I can't wait to see this next chapter in her
siren story.
Ridiculousness. Siren story.
For folks that don't know, Google Michele Fiore siren and have fun.
Weird. It's so weird. What else is going on? Anything else in the cities and the counties and I don't even know anymore. I don't even know what county I live in anymore, to be honest.
Most of the news is just everyone worried about the budget. I feel like everyone's just waiting with bated breath.
Right?
But in the world, our, wonderful leader wants to rebuild Alcatraz and tax foreign films. And Hollywood is not reacting well to that.
We can't condense these two things for you, because they're both ridiculous on their own. Let's go with Alcatraz first. I don't know about you, but the last time I was at Alcatraz, I just remember what it looked like inside. And it was not good. It was like a derelict building that was taken out of commission in the 30s or whenever it was. Then I remember the smell because of the decay. I understand that our orange leader wants a place to send criminals. Sure, he wants a concentration camp. But anyways, I get he wants somewhere to send criminals because it's not constitutional to send Americans outside of the country, because that's not how the Constitution works. He also doesn't know what due process is. He admitted that over the weekend, so there's that. But anyways, I just think he's clearly never been to Alcatraz. That's number one. Number two, I don't think anybody in the Park Service is like, yeah, this is a good idea, because have you been there, sir? Number three, do you know how many billions upon billions of waste that would be trying to rebuild Alcatraz? Like, what?
We're not going to be able to...
the reaction I have. What?
That steel and aluminum is going to be so expensive.
I forgot about that part.
It takes a lot of aluminum and steel to have basically a maximum security prison, because guess what? We already have those.
On a rock.
Yeah, and we literally have those already.
Yeah.
What's his problem?
All over the country, we have a plethora of them. He just wants some shiny object that he can show, see, I'm tough on crime.
No. You literally are a criminal. You've been adjudicated as one. You are one.
For those who are not watching, this is a man who also didn't know what the Declaration of Independence was over the weekend when asked by an ABC reporter. This is a man who doesn't know if he supports due process or not. His words, not mine. I'm not talking shit. That's what he said, friends. So it's just, I don't know. Should this be the person who's making these kinds of decisions? Seems problematic to me. I don't know. Call me crazy.
I would never trust a man who bankrupted a casino multiple times to do anything, much less decide people's freedom or lack thereof.
Yeah. So before we go into the Pope Watch, there was something that slipped through the cracks that I saved just for this episode, because I was like, we need to talk about this, because it was a blip, a literal blip that came through in one of my CNN emails that I was like, what does that say? Hold the door. What does that say? Because it didn't get much press. So let's talk about this. We have a minerals deal. After months of tense negotiations, the U.S. and Ukraine have signed an agreement that will give Washington preferential access to Kiev's rare earth minerals in exchange for providing funding for reconstruction. The global production of rare earth minerals has long been dominated by China. Seeking an alternative, Western nations have looked to Ukraine, which contains deposits of 22 of the 50 minerals that are critical to the production of electronics, clean energy technologies, and some weapon systems. Ukraine signed a similar deal with the EU in 2021. This agreement signals clearly to Russia that the Trump administration is committed to a peace process centered on a free, sovereign, and prosperous Ukraine over the long term. I have a lot of feelings on this. Now, let me just say this from the outset, because I had a lot of feelings when I read this last night. When I found this blip in my email inbox, because I have not seen it anywhere else. Have you?
Mm-mm.
This was a literal blip in an email that's like 1 through 5. So it's not getting much press. But I have recently wondered what was said when they got together at the Pope's funeral. I have recently wondered why all of a sudden Donald Trump's like, no, stop, Vladimir Putin, stop. Don't be mean to Ukraine. Please don't be mean to Ukraine. He had to get something. Because Donald Trump does nothing out of the kindness of his heart. Donald Trump doesn't do the right thing for any reason. He certainly is not doing this because he's worried about democracy, because look what he's doing here. So I had been wondering about that. My beef with this is, fine. Ukraine's got to do what they got to do to secure peace, to secure their sovereignty. I get it. You're going to do what you got to do. And if making a deal with the devil is what you got to do that, fine. On our part, though, we should be ashamed of ourselves that we're not covering that more to show the reason Donald Trump is saying the things he is. Where is the press in covering this? Why is
Actually
this just a blip in the email? Literally. Why is that just a blip in my email? Why is that not on the front page of a paper educating people about why Donald Trump is saying the stuff he is? Because he did not do that out of the kindness of his heart. He did that because he got a deal.
I'll tell you why, Annette. Because investigative journalism is dead.
Well, there's that. Yeah. And you and I are relatively educated people when it comes to this stuff. I read the news every day. I watch the news often. I am invested in this stuff. I do this stuff for a living. How are we not just now seeing this? That's crazy town. This email was from last Thursday. I have not seen this once other than that email.
Yep. Nope. No, because they would rather cover what Trump says instead of actually look into it and react to what he says with
what he's putting on Twitter or whatever else nonsense he's putting up.
And have talking heads, which we've been sometimes talking heads, but the reporters themselves don't go beyond that to say, okay, but let's also look at the reasons.
And honestly, is it fun to make fun of Donald Trump? Absolutely. It's a sport. I enjoy. He gives me so much content to make fun of. But at the end of the day, this is real serious stuff we're talking about, right? That mineral deal is what Donald Trump really wanted, to be competitive with China in this trade war. And we are using Ukraine to do that. And Ukraine is desperate to have sovereignty. Why are more people not talking about it?
Yeah. And the timing,
it's suspicious.
Because Russia was literally like bombing and killing children.
And then suddenly he has this whole, we're going to have a unilateral ceasefire. That's curious timing, Mr. Putin.
Yeah. No. Terrible.
All right. What are the updates on Pope Watch?
Pope Watch. One thing we have to look forward to, it is going to be the biggest ever, of all time. And the most
conclave ever.
Yeah. And they've installed the furnace and the chimney on top of this. Is it
going to have orange smoke come out of it when Donald Trump becomes our next pope?
God, no. God, no. The conclave is probably one of the only processes that I feel like will actually deter Donald Trump. Because he's literally not Catholic.
From your mouth to God's ears.
So one of the things we know is they've taken their oath. They have to take an oath in the Sistine Chapel, and people don't know how long. It could take hours. It could take days. it could take weeks. But they do say that maybe it'll take maybe about 3 days. It's like the end of session. Could not have the S word, maybe. We don't know. We'll find out when we get there.
TBD.
But for those folks that haven't lived through a conclave or don't know how it works, basically you have to get to the point where the winner takes 2/3 of the conclave. And the conclave is essentially a set of cardinals that are from all over the world, not just, one continent. Like there's a special number, I think, that for each continent, basically. And they all descend upon the Vatican and do that. And yes, it's like the movie, they nominate each other. Someone doesn't want to do it, but other people want them to do it. And they get thrown into the mix and you go back and forth. People get eliminated. It's like Survivor. And you keep voting and voting and voting until someone takes 2/3. Yeah. That's what's going on. And there's some favorites. There's some folks that are great. There's some folks that look great because they would be the firsts, but are not great on issues. And it's scary. For example, folks are saying that it's interesting that the African cardinals that are being considered are fairly conservative and some of the most conservative and would be a step back. And if we want an African cardinal, or a pope, current cardinal, let's pick from the cardinals that aren't so conservative.
Didn't I read that the Korean gentleman is one of the more progressive ones?
Yes,
the and that would be more of a continue. Yeah. Is he Filipino?
Yeah. I was reading it and people were saying he's the most likely to be a continuation because he's like the Filipino Francis. He's, fairly progressive, fairly liberal, and is very much in the line of thinking of Pope Francis, R.I.P. But there's some Italians, there's some Germans, there's some others that are being thrown out there. So we'll see. We'll see who actually gets in there. There's a Spanish Pope who's a liberal too. So it's funny that there's a diversity of thought also. And so I think that's the biggest question that people have of, the reason why people are they moderate liberal, or are they very liberal, or are they very conservative, is because it was a big shift, Pope Francis, after Ratzinger. And if folks don't remember, Ratzinger was ousted, basically, because people were like, we cannot have this guy on here. He's fucking nuts. And we need a shift. And so that shift went to Pope Francis, and is basically the conclave going to keep that shift going and moving the church in that way, which is what most Catholic wants, current and former Catholics? Or are they just gonna, especially with the Trump effect, going to go into the conservative route? So TBD.
Next week when we meet, we might have a new pope. We'll keep you posted, everyone. All right, I gotta keep this moving because I have 2 minutes to get out of this office. So we're gonna go into hot takes and headaches, where we can vent about anything and everything, and you can too. So Maria, what's your hot take for the week?
My hot take, honestly, is that I'm gonna go back to it. I keep coming back to it. I miss Republicans like Sandoval, just generally. Republicans like Sandoval, Republicans even former speakers of houses. I forget the guy from Wisconsin, who was Catholic, by the way.
Who?
The young guy.
They'll blend.
And he's terrible, but when I miss people like him, Republicans like him,
you know something's wrong.
Yeah, something's wrong.
These people make Boehner.
Yeah. No. But yeah, that's my hot take.
My hot take for the week. I hate when people come in this building and are too sensitive. I am not in the mood for it right now. Friends.
You're in politics. Don't be sensitive.
If you
Don't
are
take it
offended
personal
by the fact that your president sucks, then maybe you should vote better. I don't know what to tell you. That's my hot take for the week. I'm irritated. I have a lot of irritation today. It's a Monday when we're filming this with each other because Maria's traveling, and I ain't got a lot of time or patience for this shit right now. That's my hot take and my headache for the week. Irritation. Well, before we go, it's time for the final bell. What is your mic drop moment for the week, Maria, and what do you want folks to take away from our episode today?
I wanted to really instill in folks that the cuts that are going to happen now for sure by the Nevada legislature, one, that it's not the legislators' faults. They, as Annette said, have to pass a budget and it has to be balanced, so they have to make cuts. They don't want to. Some of them might want to. Deep down inside, I never said it. But they actually have to this time. And so, one, understand that when news comes out of cuts being made, and that, like we were talking about earlier, we are in this situation because of two man-made issues. One, we haven't catched up to the idea that we should be a big state and maybe have revenue, and maybe also have annual budget sessions at least. Doing it every 2 years is a little too, can't predict what's going to happen. 2 years from now, we've had so many things happen: recessions, COVID, Trump. And, Trump is the one who really pushed this over the edge because we get so much money from federal funding because we don't have that revenue. So really, when the news comes out, kind of, and other people might be asking questions, you start feeling the effects. It sucks, but also realize what the real causes are here. It isn't legislators, we'll put blame with legislators when we need to. This time around, they have to make these decisions because of these reasons.
I will say, historically, we need legislators who have the political will to call for more revenue. And sure, are Nevadans going to hate it, or are they going to throw a temper tantrum? Yes. But they also throw a temper tantrum when they don't have good things and nice things and good education system and roads to drive on and services. So if you want nice things, Nevada, you have to pay for them. So stop, think about that. And it's time for Nevada to grow up.
Yes.
So that's our final takeaway for today. That's all the time we have on 1 Minute Recess today. Today's a shorter episode because I am trapped at the Nevada legislature and squatting in somebody's office. So, Maria, you want to take us out?
Yes, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Leave a review in your podcast platform you are listening to us on. And remember, between now and next week, stay sharp, stay sassy, and we will see you next week. Bye.
All right, everyone. Tune in next week. See you soon.